Well, g'day guys. Today was one of the mightiest days I've ever had photographing Formula One. We had Lando Norris's first win and the whole paddock was taken over by Donald Trump. More in a moment. You only win your first race once, and today was Lando Norris's turn, and what a buzz it was for this young British-Belgian driver. Now, you've probably seen the race or you've heard about it, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to go to what happened after the race, because from the moment he crossed the finish line to the end of the celebration, I was with him for all but 10 minutes. So let's start out when he parked his car up in Parc Fermé, which for the three top drivers was on the track. He got out of his car, saluted the crowd, jumped off, was congratulated by Max Verstappen, and Charles went over and had a quick chat with him too before he went to move off the track. And to my left, because I was right on the fence, I could see Fernando Alonso arriving. And I thought, that's interesting. Still got their helmets on, both of them. And Fernando congratulates Lando right there on the track. A minute or so later, he's entered the pit lane, and then he's put down his helmet and his hands device, and he's just run at his crew who were positioned on that fence, jumped into their arms, and then ensued a minute or two of absolute joy for the young driver. I was so thankful I was where I was, enabling me to get these pictures of the driver being thrown around by his crew. So once he gets back down on his feet, he gets hugs from Zach Brown, Andrea Stella. And as he walks away from the crew, I see Daniel Ricciardo make his way over to Lando. And of course, Daniel's taken off his helmet and he's hot and sweaty. And he scores another hug from his Australian mate. And while this is going on, all the other drivers are waiting in a line to get weighed. And if you're wondering what this is, I can tell you this is a very exciting book. It was delivered to me today to my hotel. It's called Sand, Sunsets and Speed. It's Race Weekend's brand new book, and it's a monster. This is not an ordinary book. It offers an immersive experience by seamlessly blending breathtaking photography and art with a specially curated soundtrack by F1 superfan and Grammy Award-winning DJ Tiesto. I've photographed him a couple of times. He's big. It's more than a coffee table book. It's a visual masterpiece, and it spans 224 pages. And as you can see here, a beautiful hardbound cloth-wrapped cover and showcasing stunning photography alongside remarkable designs. This really is an innovative approach to F1 media products and is truly unique. There's only 1,000 copies available, and each limited edition comes with a custom slipcase. Don't miss out on this exclusive offering. Secure your copy by clicking in the link in my description or head to raceweekend.co. Let's get back to the podium celebration now, and for us to get to the podium, it's on the other side of the stadium, so we have to get into buses, make a trip that should only take 40 seconds, but unfortunately there's a whole lot of security and we get held up for a couple of minutes, and there was much screaming and shouting, but eventually we made it to the podium and waited for the first two drivers to be called out, and then it was Lando Norris's turn, and boy didn't he jump around. He was full of beans and it was a real joy to watch. Now, we don't see that with a Max Verstappen win, and to be fair, if Lando was celebrating his 100th win, you wouldn't expect him to be bouncing around, but it was just a lovely thing to see. Then it was time for the national anthem, and normally we get two, don't we? We get the Dutch for Max, and then we get the Austrian for Red Bull. This time we only got one, because Lando and McLaren are both British, so we only got the single national anthem. Then it was time for the trophies, and yes, Lando threw his in the air before the champagne came out. And then Lando didn't actually open his bottle, explode his bottle, until the other two had had their turn, and then pretty much in the centre of the podium on his own, bang, up he went with his trademark smashing of the bottle on the deck. The four of them posed for their pictures, and then the three drivers were taken out the back. Then we had to make our way back to Parc Fermé, but luckily the drivers were held up in an ante-room somewhere, I guess to cool down. Lando did not, though, wipe the champagne off him. He wanted to keep it on. So the next thing I see is Lando roll up in this very brightly coloured, is this a moke? I think it is. He's made a couple of calls on the way apparently, and he's got out of the car and gone into the TV media pen. At that point I see Carlos heading out of the TV media pen. I also see his girlfriend Rebecca Donaldson in front, so I figure at some point those two will catch up, and yes they did, and I was not disappointed. This picture did extremely well on my Instagram page today. Then I headed up to Williams to get a drink, and I walk in and see on the TV his dad being interviewed by Sky, and of course his dad's wearing one of his Pure Scooter shirts. He's a clever marketer. After that, I went back to the TV media pen, and I found Lando's trainer, John Malvin, and his manager, Mark Berryman, enjoying a glass of bubbly, and with big smiles on their faces. Then it was off to await Lando coming out of the media pen. Martin Brundle from Sky grabbed him and talked to him almost all the way to the press conference room where he entered. The other two had been waiting there for some time. And then the questions came thick and fast. Almost all of them for Lando. Poor Max and Charles hardly got a look in. A couple of things I remember from that press conference were, one, that he was going to pull an all-nighter. He said that Zach Brown had told him that we're not flying tonight, we're going tomorrow, so we're going to go out and have some fun. And he did actually mention that he may end up a little bit worse for wear, as he did at his celebrations for King's Day, going back last week on Martin Garrix's boat. At 7:22, the press conference finished and he walked back to the paddock where a large crowd was waiting for him for the McLaren celebration. And McLaren celebrations are a lot tamer normally than, say, a Mercedes or certainly a Red Bull celebration. There's no spraying around by everyone of sticky Red Bull with McLaren. But after the 3 photo opportunities, he did find himself a Jeroboam of Ferrari sparkling wine. And at that point I thought, oh no, I'm going to get my cameras covered in this stuff, which is always bad news. But thankfully, he targeted all of his crew with the sparkling wine. And thereafter the media pack just surrounded him and he proceeded to pour the bubbly all over himself. And hats on to Fred Vasseur from Ferrari, who actually took a front row spot to watch the celebration for Lando's win, and even agreed to wear a McLaren cap. Then he went and chatted with his engineers, did a selfie, and disappeared into the McLaren hospitality suite. Apart from the COVID year in 2020, I think I've seen all of Lando's races, including that one in Russia where he was on target to win a race, and then of course it rained. He didn't have the right tyres and he blew it. And I do remember the heartache he went through there. I do remember George Russell coming up to Lando and consoling him for a moment, but he did stay in that car for a heck of a long time. Well, that wasn't the case today. It was all joy and all excitement from a likeable young man. So that was one of 2 huge stories to come out of the Miami Grand Prix. And the race itself was pretty darn good. In fact, I was quite close to the crash between Kevin Magnussen and Logan Sargent. I took these shots of the cars coming close together, and then as I took my camera away from my eyes, I just followed it round and I saw, right, that's the start of an accident. So I took off maybe 120 metres around the corner and captured Logan getting out of the car. Pretty sad for him. From my understanding, it wasn't his fault, but I still don't think Logan is going to last terribly long, and I'll be surprised if he's still in the car in Imola. Now, getting on to the other big story, Donald Trump at the track today. I'll go through what happened first, and then I'm going to go through the comments that I received on my Instagram post. So we get a heads up that he's likely to be there at 1 or 2 p.m. I go out and shoot the drivers' parade, which takes place at 2 p.m. And then I come back early and I see all these people waiting outside of the McLaren garage. Now, I'd heard that McLaren were going to be hosting him. So I figured, well, I'll invest some time and wait in this queue. And then pretty quickly it became clear that there was a whole lot of Secret Service people milling around and they were moving people back. So we figured, yeah, we're onto something here. And the other thing that tipped me off was on the first floor, where there's normally a lot of people standing looking over, they cleared a section of about 50 metres where nobody can stand. There was only this fellow who was issuing instructions over his little two-way. At about 2:16, the security came along and pushed everyone back another metre or so, and at that point it became very clear that we were going to see Donald Trump. And sure enough, he emerged from this building, and there were security people left, right and centre, but thankfully he stopped not too far from me, allowing me to get these pictures, and then continued on into the McLaren garage. I decided to wait out the back because I'm thinking, if he's gone in, he's got to come out. And of course, when he came out, they cleared an even wider area. They had police everywhere. And unfortunately, they'd timed it so poorly that all of the drivers were coming back from the drivers' parade. And of course, they're greeted with 7 or 8 deep crowds, and the police won't let them through. So in the end, somebody just had to shout, "Lewis is here, we've got to let Lewis through." And luckily, he and a few other drivers were allowed through. And then Donald emerged from the garage, once again stopped not too far from me, actually looked towards the guy next to me who was videoing. Well, he thought he was, but he actually forgot to press the record button, and then he headed back in from where he came. The thing that grabbed me were these 4 guys here, heavily decked out with all sorts of military sort of caper and commanding quite a bit of attention. So that was Donald Trump's takeover of the F1 paddock. Now, I posted a picture because my job is to tell you what happens at the track. Well, I can't believe the negative comments on here, because I know bugger all about American politics. But two things absolutely floored me. One was the number of likes on the post. At the time of recording, it's in the order of 31,000 likes. But there are 1,200 comments. That's a lot for one of my posts. And almost all of them are scathing of the man. So I don't know what's going on here. You've got the vast majority of people commenting, hating him, but then there are 30,000 people liking the post. So America, I don't know what's going on in your country, but clearly he is quite a divisive man. He's loved and he's hated. But today he very much made the news here in Miami. I've talked about security. I actually had a chat with the police too, because we had a lot of police presence. And last night when I left the track, we got stopped at the lights with a motorcade coming through. It was Valtteri Bottas with two motorcycles in front and a car behind. And I had a chat with some police today and said, what's the story? Who pays for all this shenanigans with escorts and police at the track? And they said, well, the organiser does. And I said, what sort of money do they pay? And he said, about $75 an hour per person. So the organiser's running up quite a bill on police. Other things today. Oliver Mintzlaff was here. He's the head honcho of Red Bull in Austria. He welcomed Adrian Newey and Amanda, his wife, at one point. And then I caught him having a long chat with Liam Lawson towards the back of the paddock out the front of the VCARB hospitality suite. The same place, earlier on in the day, I'd photographed Daniel Ricciardo's girlfriend, Heidi Berger, having a lovely time throwing an American football about. Did we see Patrick Mahomes today? No, I didn't see him, or his wife, Brittany, but he was there. Who did I see celebrity-wise? In fact, I struggled a bit to find celebrities, but it was very busy on the grid. And Donald came out on the grid too and saluted when the national anthem was played, and then was led away by Mohammed bin Sulayem. We had Claire Williams pop into the paddock today. I haven't seen Claire for, I'll tell you when the last time I took a photo of her was. 30th of November, 2019. She was walked in through the paddock and went straight to the Williams hospitality suite. I didn't see her leave though. Also creating a bit of controversy at the track today were two very popular on social media women models. One is Ivana Knoll, who you might remember created quite a stir going back to a World Cup when she dressed in Croatian colours in a bikini. And the other one is Veronika Radjak, who has been to F1 before, but today was in quite a remarkable outfit that offended some people. Not sure how many, but yeah, some people took offence to it. But there were plenty more who were quite enamoured with it. But this is Miami, and if those outfits are going to be at home anywhere, it's going to be in this city. Today was quite a remarkable day to be an F1 photographer, to be so close to Lando Norris for his very first win, having followed him for years, was quite a joy. And also seeing how the security works for a presidential visit. I think it'll be quite some time before I have another day quite like today. Now, I'm happy to see your comments below about Donald Trump, if you like him or not. And I figure you're probably going to go the same direction as you did on the Instagram post, but hey, it's your opportunity to say whatever it is that is on your mind. And for a whole lot of extra content, you know where to go. And finally, I want to thank the organisers who not only did such a great job catering for us, food and drink wise, but every one of us got one of these Miami Dolphins shirts. And have a look on the back. Thank you for watching and stay passionate. Where's Claire Williams?